Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you're here. Let me ask you something. Do you remember when Christine Brown Woolley released her book and she talked about how Kody would sometimes use Robyn as a kind of go-between? Almost like Robyn was the messenger. Christine would say something to her, and before you knew it, it somehow made its way right back to Kody, sometimes with a little extra spin on it. One moment from the book really stuck with me, and I'm curious if it stayed with you too. Christine described a time when Robyn actually confronted her and asked why she wasn't giving Kody massages anymore. Do you remember that part? If it's a little fuzzy, don't worry. Let me walk you through it. Christine explained that she quickly realized anything she shared with Robyn would eventually get back to Kody, often twisted just enough to change the meaning. At one point, the wives had all agreed they wouldn't discuss what happened in the bedroom. That boundary mattered to Christine. But somehow, Robyn found out that Christine had stopped giving Kody massages. Christine was clear, she hadn't told Robyn herself. So when Robyn asked, "Why aren't you giving Kody massages anymore?" Christine answered honestly. She said, "Because he doesn't give back, so why would I keep doing it?" Robyn's response, "Oh really? He's such a great husband." Christine's reaction was pretty powerful. She felt deeply betrayed. Not just that Kody would talk to Robyn about their private, intimate life, but that Robyn would listen and engage in that conversation. That kind of sharing crossed a line. Now, Christine also made a point to say this didn't mean she and Robyn couldn't get along, and honestly, that part says a lot about Christine. She said she took a deep breath, put on her big girl pants, and made an effort. They spent time together. They bought special dishes for family gatherings. They planned parties and activities, and she genuinely enjoyed some of it. She even talked about Passover. Christine admitted she never really liked celebrating it, mainly because it replaced Easter, a tradition she missed after Kody decided Easter was pagan. But Robyn tried to make it special. She asked how they could change things up and then jumped right in. She added a scripture-based treasure hunt and turned it into something the kids actually enjoyed. And to Christine's credit, she acknowledged that Robyn made it lovely. Still, let's go back to that massage conversation because it raises a big question. If Robyn was asking Christine why she stopped giving Kody massages, that tells us something important. It suggests that behind the scenes, Robyn and Kody were talking about his sex life with other wives. There's really no way around that. When this part of the book first came out, I remember thinking, massages? What is it with men, power, and this idea of women giving massages? And my mind went to a much darker example, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, obviously, these situations are not the same, but the parallel was unsettling. Epstein used massages as a cover. Ghislaine Maxwell would recruit young, vulnerable girls, sometimes right outside high schools, sometimes at malls, sometimes even at places like Mar-a-Lago where they worked in spas. She'd offer them a few $100s and present it as a job opportunity, a harmless massage gig. Then she'd introduce them to Epstein. Sometimes Maxwell was involved in what happened next, sometimes she wasn't. But the system was always the same: power, manipulation, and exploitation, wrapped up in something that sounded innocent on the surface. And that's why the word massage hits such a nerve for me. Not because Christine did anything wrong, far from it, but because of how casually Kody seemed to discuss something deeply personal, and how Robyn felt comfortable inserting herself into it. It wasn't just awkward, it wasn't just inappropriate. It felt like another example of blurred boundaries, quiet pressure, and trust being stretched way too thin. Now, part of why Ghislaine Maxwell stayed involved for so long is because she gained power inside Epstein's world. She wasn't just some bystander. She was paid very well. She worked for him for years. He took care of her financially. He was a billionaire, she wasn't. And over time, she developed her own sense of influence. That power mattered to her, and she actively participated in what he was doing. That's exactly why she's in prison today. And honestly, I hope she is never pardoned. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Women playing a role in a man's scheme to influence or control other women is not unusual. It happens a lot. When a woman is put in that position, she often gains something: status, security, money, or authority. And that power can be intoxicating. Now, let's bring this back to the world of polygamy. Just like Epstein used Ghislaine to recruit teenage girls, men in groups like the AUB often use their wives to recruit other women, frequently very young women. And to be clear, I am not saying this happens specifically in Kody's family. I'm talking about the system as a whole. In many polygamous communities, women are used as the bait. They're the friendly face, the reassuring voice, the person who tells a young woman, it's not that bad, it's actually beautiful. And within that system, the head wife, or the favorite wife, ends up with the most power. She may live in the nicest house. She may get the most time with the husband. Her children may get the most attention and resources. She often helps set the rules. There's a hierarchy, and that hierarchy looks very similar to what we see in trafficking situations.
Because ask yourself this, why would a woman agree to recruit or pressure other women unless she was getting something out of it? Now, here's where it gets complicated. In polygamy, many of these women are also victims. Most of them are groomed into the system as children. They don't really get a choice. But over time, something shifts. They go from being victims to becoming perpetrators. That doesn't erase their victimhood, but it does mean they may begin enforcing the system on other women and often on children. So yes, a woman can be harmed by a man and still go on to harm others within that same structure. This dynamic actually comes up when Janelle sits down with her friends and explains how polygamy really works. It's one of the first times we hear someone speak openly about it. This conversation happens right before she's supposed to meet with Robyn and Kody about closing on Coyote Pass, and you can tell she's starting to see the bigger picture. All of this is to say, women often play a crucial role in recruiting other women. So when Robyn approaches Christine and questions her about the massages, why she's not doing them anymore, that moment isn't really that different from what we see in other systems of exploitation. It mirrors how Ghislaine Maxwell would question or pressure women who were being abused by Epstein, encouraging them to do things they didn't want to do, or making them feel like they were the problem. Now, let me be very clear. I am not saying Robyn is Ghislaine Maxwell. Absolutely not. But in every trafficking situation I've ever studied, there is almost always a Ghislaine. There's always a woman helping uphold the system. And I know this is hard for people to hear, especially because we've watched this family on television for years, but polygamy is considered a form of trafficking by many experts. It involves labor exploitation and reproductive control. The women are used for babies, for money, and to help men reach their version of a heavenly kingdom. And under that belief system, women have very few rights. They're expected to be obedient and submissive, to do what the man says, no questions asked. That's why this is so uncomfortable to reckon with. We've grown familiar with these people. We've laughed with them. We've watched their kids grow up. But if you step back, what you're really watching is women slowly leaving a system of control, even if they don't have the words for it yet. And that's okay. Awareness comes in stages. Christine once said to me, most men are not as much work as Kody was. And I remember thinking, wow, that says a lot. Because from the outside, it really does look like Kody and Robyn are genuinely happy. And Robyn seems almost blind to his flaws. She doesn't appear to see anything negative in him at all. And that too tells its own story.
Oh no, I don't think it's one-sided at all. I think they're equally yoked. And that's actually an interesting phrase for Janelle to use, because equally yoked isn't a term you'd normally apply to people with bad or sneaky intentions. In the Christian Bible, being equally yoked means two people share the same values, morals, and goals. It's about alignment, walking in the same direction, pulling the same load, believing in the same things. In many faith settings, people are even encouraged to surround themselves only with others who are equally yoked. In more extreme situations, like cults, this idea gets taken even further. Members may be told they can't associate with people who don't share their beliefs. That can include friends, co-workers, even employers. So the phrase itself doesn't have a negative meaning at all. When Janelle uses it here, she's not saying Robyn is being dragged along or manipulated. She's saying Robyn and Kody share the same goals, the same mindset, the same agenda. They want the same things. They're in this together. In Janelle's view, Robyn isn't just a passive victim. Now, here's where things get complicated, because in polygamy, women can be both victims and perpetrators at the same time. Robyn can absolutely be harmed by the system, just like the other wives, but she can also participate in harming others within that system. I do agree with Angela when she says Robyn doesn't seem to see anything wrong with Kody. There's definitely a blind spot there. Robyn doesn't appear to recognize his flaws, or at least she doesn't acknowledge them. But I also understand what Janelle is getting at. I don't see Robyn as completely innocent, but I also don't believe she's somehow immune to the trauma of polygamy. All of these women are responding to that trauma in different ways. Robyn's way just happens to involve some pretty unhealthy coping mechanisms. She's found a way to gain control, and that's exactly what Janelle starts to explain. Janelle says, sometimes you get power by giving power. Let that sink in for a second. In her view, Robyn positions herself as the helpless one, the person who's constantly being hurt, misunderstood, or targeted. She frames the rest of the family as the problem, as the source of pain. Everyone else becomes the enemy. And what does that do? It triggers something in Kody. He steps into hero mode, cape on, white horse ready. He rushes in to rescue her from all these so-called villains, the other wives, the kids, anyone who challenges her narrative. In that dynamic, Robyn gets power by appearing powerless, and Kody gets to feel important, needed, and admired. They feed each other's egos. And honestly, when Janelle talks about this, you can almost hear the exhaustion in her voice. That feeling of wanting to just walk away and say, all right, I'm done. Be well. Have a nice life. But maybe don't be too well. It's dark humor, but it's also very real.
So when Janelle says they're equally yoked, she's saying this isn't accidental. It's not one person dragging the other along. It's a shared dynamic where victimhood, protection, power, and control all get tangled together. And by doing all of this, it gives her power. She gets what she wants, while Kody's relationships with everyone else slowly fall apart. She uses Kody almost like a tool, sending him out to do her bidding, whether that's confronting others, cutting people off, or shifting blame. And honestly, that's very much in line with what we talked about yesterday. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not a psychologist, but I am a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and when Janelle describes this dynamic, it sounds very familiar to me. What she's describing lines up with something called triangulation. Triangulation often shows up in narcissistic abuse, especially alongside the victim-savior dynamic. It's when someone pulls a third person into a situation to avoid responsibility for their own actions. Instead of dealing with conflict directly, they redirect attention and blame. So, in this case, Robyn positions herself as the victim and pulls Kody into that role of savior. She convinces him that the other women are mistreating her, attacking her, or causing her harm. And once he believes that, he feels compelled to rescue her. What this does is place the other women right in the middle of Kody and Robyn's relationship, while also placing Robyn in the middle of Kody's relationships with the other women. Everyone is tangled up, everyone is confused, and the result is division. Kody rides in as the White Knight. He feels like he's defended Robyn's honor, protected her from the villains, and done his duty. And once that happens, whatever Robyn may have actually done gets brushed aside. It's no longer the focus. Whether it's spending large amounts of money without telling anyone, taking advantage of shared resources, acting vindictively toward Janelle, Christine, or Meri, whatever the issue is, it gets ignored. Instead of taking responsibility, the blame gets shifted. They did this to me. They hurt me. They're the problem. And just like that, Robyn avoids accountability. The spotlight moves off her behavior and onto everyone else. It's a deflection tactic, but it's also a powerful way to isolate Kody from the other women. And this isn't something we only see between Robyn and the wives. We see it with the kids too. Over and over, the message becomes us versus them. They're unsafe. They're hurting us. You can't trust them. And again, the call goes out, save me. Now, to be fair, this doesn't mean Kody is innocent. Not at all. Janelle's point about them being equally yoked really matters here, because Kody does the exact same thing. He triangulates too. Kody regularly pulls other people into conflicts to distract, confuse, and avoid accountability. We saw it for years, pitting the wives against each other, making them jealous, making them compete for his approval, creating the sense that if you just tried harder, if you just behaved more like Robyn, you'd get love, time, and affection. He'd say things like, "I can't let Robyn be around these people, they're bullies," or "If you were more like Robyn, we could have a better relationship," or "If you were more submissive, more giving, more obedient." That's triangulation too. So when Janelle says they're equally yoked, she's pointing out that this dynamic only works because both of them participate in it. They reinforce each other, they benefit from it, and everyone else pays the price.
What Robyn does. And over time, that creates resentment. The other women are being told directly or indirectly that if they just acted more like Robyn, they'd get what Robyn has. More time, more favor, more security. So naturally, it turns into competition, and that competition poisons everything. So yes, it goes both ways. I completely understand what Janelle is saying. If you look at it from another angle, Robyn isn't just playing the damsel in distress. She's using that role to gain power, influence, and control. She isolates Kody from the rest of the family so she can get what she wants and ultimately dictate how the family operates. And instead of fighting her own battles, she lets Kody fight them for her. That's why it never seems to bother her when Kody is yelling, raging, or completely unhinged. She doesn't really push back. She'll lightly suggest he behave, but that's mostly for show. The truth is, she benefits from his outrage. His anger becomes a weapon. She gets him worked up, and then he charges in to defend her honor, devil on his shoulder and all. It's an incredibly toxic dynamic. Honestly, Robyn and Kody remind me so much of another narcissistic couple we've talked about on this channel, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And I know that comparison might raise some eyebrows, but stay with me. When you have two narcissists in a relationship, they feed off each other. They amplify each other's worst traits. They play psychological games. If one feels insecure, the other pokes at that insecurity, sometimes subtly, sometimes not, because their own ego needs the validation. So if Ryan feels jealous, Blake leans into it. If Blake needs to feel irresistible, she plays on that dynamic. It's a loop. And it's not all that different from what we see with Kody and Robyn, just in very different worlds and cultures. The thing is, relationships like that rarely last long-term.
Two narcissists can only coexist for so long. Eventually, one gets tired of competing, or controlling, or being controlled, and when it falls apart, it usually falls apart loudly, explosively. It's extremely hard for two narcissists to stay married forever, because eventually their egos work against each other. Loyalty has limits when everyone has their own agenda. For now, though, Robyn has positioned herself as the powerful one. She learned early on that the way to gain control was to present herself as the one who always needed saving, the perpetual victim. And Kody stepped right into that role. He protects her, he defends her, he isolates himself for her, and she benefits from all of it. Money, status, security, while quietly pulling the strings behind the scenes. It's unsettling to watch, and honestly, it's pretty disturbing. All right, I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this resonated, give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed and click that bell so you don't miss future videos. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Bye for now.